you have to leave what you're comfortable with behind. You literally have to just wake up one day and say, I'm fed up, I'm over it, I'm ready for change. Because that's what happened to me when it was time for me to move. Like, until you get to the point to where you're like over it and you're over of getting the same results, of getting the same situation, being in the same situation, you're not going to make that change. So you literally have to like separate your feelings, how you're feeling right now, and just do it.
Hey, Dream Drivers, welcome to episode 141 of the Dreams and Drive podcast. And I have a message for you, and it's this. You can't be scared to take the leap because you never know what will be on the other side. Today, we are going to be speaking with Missy Pierre-Val, who is a nurse practitioner, former NFL cheerleader, and the founder of Scrub Angels, an online community that educates and supports nurses. After being a nurse for over 7 years, Missy noticed that nurses within her community were becoming easily burned out, lacked support and mentorship, and felt lost in their careers. So she decided to do something about it. And on this episode, you're going to listen in as she talks her dream driving journey, which includes the lessons she learned during her NFL days and why she sued them. There's so many other things that we talk about, including why she launched Scrub Angels, the importance of relocation and change, why we have to practice self-care, living without regrets, challenges building her nurse practitioner group, and so much more. Remember to join in on the conversation on social by sharing or engaging. We are Dreams and Drive across the board on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And make sure to use the hashtag Dreams and Drive as well. And if you really love this episode, share with a friend and be like, friend, you need to listen to this today. I think that's the best type of sharing that you could do. Remember, we are still doing our giveaway with episode 140 guest Tracy Busher. We are giving away a $100 gift card to the New You online store. So if you want to enter, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/win. That's dreamsanddrive.com/win. And if you have not bought your Dreams and Drive gear, if you haven't bought a t-shirt, a hoodie, or a sweatshirt, please support us. Please support and go to dreamsanddrive.com/shop. That's dreamsanddrive.com/shop to get your gear. And if you use the code DRIVER, you get 10% off. All right, let's get into the episode. Hi, Missy. Welcome to this episode of Dreams and Drive.
Hi, Raina. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for that awesome pitch that you sent me. I mean, I get a lot of pitches and I don't oftentimes get to accept all of them. So I loved how you were able to articulate your story, and it definitely captivated me. And I hope that our dream drivers as well learn a lot from your story.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited. I definitely wanted to share my story just to help other people, because I do get questions all the time from other nurses and just other women as well about how I was able to move and start my business and things like that. So,
all right. Well, you know how we like to start our interviews. Let's go back in time. So if I had to be like, who was Missy, that 8-year-old? What was inspiring you back then?
The 8-year-old Missy, I would say that I was really into the arts. Like, I love dancing. I was playing musical instruments, and I was a really avid reader. So I read like a lot of books. I had a ton of books at home. Like, my parents' attic was full of books that I would get from like school in the library. And I really just loved like singing and dancing and modeling, just the arts, really.
Where did you grow up? Because I know you were born in Haiti, right?
Yep. I was born in Haiti. I actually moved to the States when I was 5 years old with my parents and my siblings. I was raised in Orlando, Florida for the majority of my life. And then I moved to Tampa for college.
So what was the dream back then? Like, you were this child who just loved to learn and loved to read. Who did you think the adult Missy was going to be?
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. The dream back then was, I thought that I was going to be a dancer. Like I mentioned, I love to dance. I used to always watch like music videos. I also wanted to be like a figure skater. My mother was not having that, so that didn't work out. So I really thought I was going to do something in like entertainment, something like dancing or modeling, something like that.
So how did you end up in the nursing field?
I actually ended up in nursing because my parents, especially my mom, she knew that I really love dancing, but I grew up in a Haitian household, and my parents are very traditional. And as far as Haitians are concerned, it's, you go to school, you go to college, that's it. Like dancing was not a, career path that they even considered. Like,
were they religious as well?
Yes, my parents were very religious.
Okay, that's a big no-no.
Yes, exactly. So it was just like, no. So actually, when I was going to high school, in my area, we actually, like, once you left middle school, you could get, as long as your grades were up to par, you can go to like magnet schools. I think a lot of cities also have them. And so I wanted to go to, there was a high school that I wanted to go to, and it was for dance. And so I remember bringing the application home, and my mother refused to sign it. She was like, we're not signing this. You have to choose something else. And then so she was, we looked through the different schools and what they had. And the high school I ended up going to, they actually had a medical magnet program. And so she was like, okay, let's do this. And also, like, being a doctor or a nurse is like a really big thing in like the Haitian community. So like every Haitian parent either wants you to be a doctor or a nurse. So she was like, okay, those are really your two options. She was like, you can, go to this medical magnet, and you can choose to be a doctor or a nurse. I was just like, what? And it was so crazy because at the time I didn't have any interest. Like, I didn't even like hospitals, like none of it. Like, I had zero interest. So she kind of forced me to going, and I ended up going to the school, and I actually loved it. Like, my first class was, I remember, medical terminology, and I actually fell in love with it. So
now that makes a lot of sense. And your first job in nursing, did you feel like this was your calling?
My first job in nursing, no. I actually really struggled. Probably my first year of nursing, I absolutely hated it. My first job, I was only there for like 4 or 5 months. And then I actually ended up working at another hospital it was a much better fit for me. I felt like they received new nurses, a bit better. So I really actually didn't feel, I don't want to say bounced around, but I kind of tried a lot of different things as my career progressed. And once I ended up in graduate school and I became a nurse practitioner, which is what I am now, that's kind of really when I found like my niche, like my, I guess, calling, you can say.
So what's the difference between a nurse practitioner versus like other types of nurses?
So nurse practitioner means that you're an advanced practice nurse, meaning you have either your master's or your doctorate. And the main difference between a regular nurse who has their bachelor's and a nurse practitioner is that my role is very similar to a primary care doctor. So I don't know if you've ever gone to the doctor's office, and instead of seeing the doctor, maybe you saw the PA, or you probably saw the nurse practitioner. So our training is very different, and in the sense that medical doctors, they go to school longer, and their route is more like medicine based, and nursing is a different training, and our education is different, but we really do like the same work.
And during this time, I was doing my research, and you mentioned it when we were talking before via email, is you were also an NFL cheerleader. Like, how did that come about? Like, you were studying to be a nurse, you were in school, and you were also balancing being an NFL cheerleader. Was that your way of still, keeping that passion for dance alive?
Yeah, it really was, because the college I went to was a small private school, so I did not get a chance to do any kind of dancing. I did in high school, but once I graduated, it was just, that was it for me. And I mean, I would take like dance classes here and there, but I remember just laying in the bed one day, like studying, and then I saw like on the news that they were actually having tryouts for the NFL cheerleaders for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And so, of course, I immediately jumped up. I researched it, but like at that time, tryouts were like a week away. And then, I'm reading how like hundreds of women show up. So I'm like, okay, like I'm not going to go this year and embarrass myself. So I just made it a goal to apply or to try out once I got done with nursing school. And that's kind of how I ended up doing that. I tried out my first time. I did not make it. And then the second time I tried out, I made the team.
What is it like being an NFL cheerleader? Because I danced in college, but it was like, I was in a dance company. I wouldn't say it was professional, but it was still very intense. Like, I tell people all the time, like, dance was like, I felt like we were kind of like athletes because we had practices 2 times a day. We had company rehearsal on Saturdays. Like, it was no joke. So I can only imagine doing that and then having to go to NFL games and then having to do your work. What was that like for you?
Oh my gosh, it was absolutely crazy. Even sometimes to this day, like I look back and I'm like, I don't know how I managed, because at that time I was working nights as a nurse. So I would literally because we had practices, we always had Saturday practices before the games, like on Sunday. So, and it was so funny because my nursing job was literally across the street from the field where we practiced. So I would literally get off work at like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. And then I would change my clothes at work. And then I'd probably sleep in the car for like an hour and a half. And then I'd have to be in practice for like 5-6 hours. It was crazy. But cheering for the NFL, I only did it for 1 year, 1 season, but it's really intense. Our practices it's 2 days a week, 2 to 3 days a week. They were anywhere from 5 to 6 hours. It's like, I tell people, it's like having another part-time or full-time job sometimes, because cheering on the field was actually maybe 20% of what we did. We did a lot of community service things. We did a lot of media stuff. So you're constantly always having to show up somewhere for something, or having to do something, or having to practice outside of practice. Like, it was pretty crazy. Like, it was really intense. And I remember cheering my first year, and I was just like, gosh, like, I thought I was just going to come and practice and just cheer. And that was it. But it was so much that they want out of you besides cheering.
And they also weren't paying you guys. Like, this wasn't a lucrative side hustle, right?
No, it's really not. So it's really something that you have to love. Like, no, I mean, we were getting paid not much at all. Yeah. So it's something that you really love to do, you really like doing, and something you love doing. The most, majority of all the girls, we loved dancing. So, we did it, but that's why I did it 1 year. I was like, this is a lot of work for, the time. And I was in graduate school and I was working full time at the time. So I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just a lot.
Were there any benefits, though, that, like, thinking about it now, where you are, what you're doing with your life now, like any lessons from that point in your life that you can translate into areas now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would have to say it was a great experience for me, because one, I got to really see how I never work in like corporate, of course, because I was a nurse. So I really got to see how that was like behind the scenes working. And I guess, we'd say, quote unquote, corporate world, because we did a lot of stuff like that. We had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they have a lot of corporate partners. So we would have to do a lot of activities and things with them outside of cheering. And it really taught me perseverance and really believe in yourself, because I don't know how much you know about NFL cheerleading, but for majority of the teams, you probably have about 200 to 300. And if it's even a well-known team, sometimes 500 girls will show up for like 30 spots on a team. And half of the time, the returning members usually make it back. Not all of them, but majority of them already make it back. So really, you're probably looking at anywhere from like 15 to 20 spots out of like 300 girls. So it's kind of crazy. So I think that experience really taught me about perseverance. Just, like I said, it was a really grueling schedule for me, but I had to stay on top of it. So that kind of helped me with my organizational skills and just learning, I guess, how to balance, if there's such a thing.
And I know we won't get into this too much, but you also did sue the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which you were working for. I was doing some research online, and you got some pushback. You got some people who were supporting you from that whole experience where you were rallying for them to pay, their dancers fair wages, and you guys did end up winning that lawsuit against them. Do you think that, looking back, that's something you would have done if you could do it all over again?
So I cheered for 1 season, and I want to say maybe 6 or 7 months later, there was actually another ex-cheerleader, and she was out in California. and she cheered for one of the NFL teams in California. And she kind of jump started the whole thing. So I remember getting a call from one of the lawyers about, I don't know how they got my information, but I remember getting a call from one of the lawyers about our wages and things like that. And of course, I remember I didn't know about it until, I got that call. So I remember doing my research, and sure enough, but I mean, even while I was cheering, that was definitely something like all the girls we definitely talked about, because here you are doing all of this work and you're getting paid like nothing.
Literally nothing.
Yeah, like we did calendars and things, like we did a lot of activities that made the team a lot of money. So, I mean, I always kind of had that idea in the back of my mind. But when I was first approached about it, I was really terrified. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can't go up against the NFL. So I kind of pondered about it. Probably took me another month. Like I discussed it with some of my friends, family members. And then of course, they were just like, yeah, like you guys deserve, your compensation, especially if you guys were doing things that brought the team, any kind of revenue, things like that. So I remember I called the lawyer back and kind of had a discussion. So I approached some of the team members that were no longer cheering, that only did maybe one season like I did. And a lot of them were on board. And then, of course, long story short, when it came to actually filing the lawsuit, literally everybody just bailed. Like everybody bailed. Everybody kind of left me by myself. And I was just like, oh my gosh, so what I do now? And so I decided to still pursue the lawsuit. And I remember going back and forth, going to, litigations and it's like the NFL, it was like crazy. And this was like a back and forth process for probably an entire year before we actually won the case. So they actually ended up settling with us, or I should say with me, with the team. They actually ended up settling. And, that whole situation was, I mean, at first I definitely was scared because I got a lot of like pushback from even some of the girls on the team.
Why?
Because they felt like I was kind of like outing the whole NFL cheerleading thing. But yeah, like it was crazy because I'm like, I'm doing it for all of us. Like, and what's crazy? Like, I remember when I was approached by the lawyer, I got the option to just sue them for myself, or I can sue them for a class action. And I said, you know what? It wouldn't be right for me to just sue them just for me. Like, I wanted all the girls who, and the good thing is that they took it back 5 years. So every girl who cheered 5 years on got, paid what they should have. So it was, so I was just like, I don't understand, because I'm doing it for, like the whole team. Like I'm doing it for everybody, like especially knowing how much the NFL makes and knowing, how women are already treated in the workforce. We get paid less than men when doing the same job. And it was just crazy.
You would think there'd be more solidarity, right?
Yes, and there was none. And I think people were just scared. And I think a lot of them felt like maybe if they attacked me, I mean, I got attacked so much, like on social media. I mean, I even had people, like in the community sending me like hate mail, like it was awful. So I think maybe like they felt, maybe they didn't want the NFL to maybe stop having cheerleaders because the issue with some other NFL teams that were also having lawsuits, some of them were contemplating like having done with going away with NFL cheerleaders, period. So I think some of the girls just didn't want that opportunity to go away, but it was crazy.
It's just funny now because you think about NFL, you think about the guys, like they're making so much money, right? Like those NFL players, they wouldn't be standing to make like $100 a day for what they're doing. So I'm just so proud of you and so inspired by what you were able to do. And even if those women or whoever wasn't supporting, you were able to really like show that you're going to stand up for what's right. And I think that's something that a lot of us dream drivers can really take heed of in our own journeys,
Yeah, because, I said to myself, I never want to have like in the future a daughter, I have nieces. I never want to have, even a little girl who looks up to me or anything, because we interacted with a lot of young girls while I was in in the NFL and I cheered for them. And it's like, I wanted them to know that it's okay for you to get paid your worth, especially when you're making a multi-million company, billion company money. They're making money off of our photos, off calendars. We're hosting all kinds of events and we're not getting compensated, and that's not okay. So I really wanted to that's really one of the biggest reasons I still wanted to do it, because it just, like you said, it wasn't right. And they'd been doing this for so long and getting away with it for so long. And it did cause a change because now they actually pay the girls an hourly rate. So, it really did help.
So nursing during this point, like, what were you doing in your career? What were you feeling about, being Missy, the nurse practitioner? So
while I was still cheering, I was actually not a nurse practitioner yet. I was still in graduate school. So I was actually just what we call a unit nurse. I just had my bachelor's at the time. So I was working at a hospital.
All right. So when did the idea for Scrub Angels come around?
So that idea really came about, I kind of played with the idea like 2 years ago, because what I realized, especially after being a nurse for like after my first full year and just feeling like, oh gosh, I hate this, is I really noticed that nurses really did not get the recognition that we needed. And I understand that that's not why you go into nursing. And of course, there's so many other jobs that, deserve the thing. But it just kind of dawned on me, like, kind of really similar to the NFL. Like here, nurses are doing a lot of the work, and a lot of the time other specialties like the doctors would get the praise. Doctors got praises. I mean, they have lounges, they have separate rooms, and they have all kind of perks in the hospitals. And I was just like, nurses have like nothing, like we have Nurses Week, and, like the hospitals or my job, they'd give you like, Starbucks, $10 gift card or something like that. But I was just like, nurses are doing majority of the work, and here we are not getting the recognition. And I also realized that the public as well did not know much about nursing and what it is that we did. And I said, it would be cool to create something where, like my products would be able to show nurses appreciation. And not only that, but also offer a community that would support nurses, especially new nurses. It's such a learning curve. And half of the time you don't feel like, you're doing anything right. So I kind of felt like we needed that, and also like the mentoring aspect of it. So that's really how Scrub Angels came about. So had you ever started any type of entrepreneurial endeavor like this before? Not like this. I mean, I like dabbled in stuff before. Like I tried selling clothes online. That was horrible because I didn't know what I was doing, and I really didn't even like it. So yeah, that didn't work out. But other than that, no. I guess like growing up, I just kind of knew I always wanted to have my own business. I just didn't know what it would be. So what year was this? This was what for when you first started Scrub Angels? Okay, officially started last year. Okay, but I started like making products into the end of 2015. What was like the first thing, or if you could walk us through those first steps that you had to do to kind of make it legit, like what were those steps that you took? So those first step is I had the LLC. I ended up getting a website. I actually ended up hiring a business coach, and she was the one who kind of helped me through my like marketing strategy and, like just kind of setting the business up and have it going. So like the legal stuff and hiring a coach, that was a big help as well. And a lot of research. And to be quite honest, when I first started, I've kind of had to pivot a little bit, or quite a few times actually, because what I found that I was getting a lot of, I don't want to say negativity, but I realized the nurses were so unhappy with their jobs that sometimes it was kind of like pulling teeth to help them feel inspired. Really? Like Yeah.
You would think that when people are uninspired, like that providing them a way to be inspired, you wouldn't have to pull teeth. Like what were the things that you had to do?
I felt like for Scrub Angels, I had to do a lot of like cheerleading, a lot of like, okay, nurses, this is why you guys should, maybe further your education. This is why you guys should, try to find a job that fits you. I think a lot of the nurses are or were so unhappy where they were career-wise, or just maybe the job that they were in or the situation that they were in, that they couldn't even see how to be helped, like, honestly. And so I know, like you said, I thought that it's like, okay, well, I know as nurses, we know we work so hard. We're proud to be nurses. So, okay, like, let's get this movement going. But I mean, it was like, pulling teeth at first.
But they still had a love, like, I know a few nurses that sometimes feel drained, but at their deep core, they still love what they do. They just don't like the environment or how they're doing it. You know what I mean? Like, they still love being nurses. Were you building like what was it that they were signing up for? Was it a blog? Was it like a Facebook group? Like, how did you build those first core community members?
So actually, the way I really got started was I actually had a Facebook group. I still have a Facebook group. It's called Nursing School 101. And surprisingly, both nurses and nursing students joined. And so I kind of was able to really see what the students, like how the students felt, because it's been so long since I've been a student. So I kind of was able to tap into the students, although they weren't nurses yet. I wanted to see, like, what were they looking forward to? What would be your ideal nursing job, like, before you guys actually start working, So I kind of tapped into that. And then I had this one t-shirt that I created that really took off. And I think it was more so of like sharing the t-shirt, having other nurses share it on Instagram, because like you said, although a lot of nurses maybe feel unhappy or, just drained, like burnt out is what we say in nursing, they're still very proud to be nurses. So I think having that t-shirt to just kind of maybe remind them that, you're not going to have the best of days all the time, but, at the end of the day, we do this, for X, Y, and Z, and just having other nurses share. And I think that really is what took off for me.
What was the shirt that went viral?
I have a shirt on my website, and it's called, it's actually Scrub Life. So it's actually like a little angel that's wearing scrubs, and it's a stethoscope that goes around like the neck of the t-shirt, and it says Scrub Life.
Oh, that is cute. I'm envisioning it. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm envisioning it.
Yeah, it's really cute.
So along this time, like, what were some of the challenges that you were facing? Like, was this something that you wanted to do full time? Like, talk us through some of that stuff.
I didn't want to do it full time because I actually have a career as a nurse practitioner, where I actually co-own a nurse practitioner group with one of my best friends. So I knew that this was more of a part-time project for me. So because I want to explore and keep exploring my career as a nurse practitioner further. But I mean, I've kind of just kept the idea open to just kind of see where it takes me.
So you said that you co-own a nurse practitioner group. What is a nurse practitioner group?
Okay, so a nurse practitioner group it's where you have more than one nurse practitioner who provide medical services under one business. Like, for instance, there are what you call like medical groups, which are typically usually just physicians. So you'll have maybe one physician who does, let's say, primary care. You may have one who does like a different specialty. I have the same with another nurse practitioner. And we both do what's called primary care because we're both family nurse practitioners. That's our specialty. And what we do is we actually do examinations for the veterans, and we work a lot with the veterans and do things like that.
Is it profitable for you? Like, is this something that you're still trying to figure out how to profit from?
Yes, it is actually profitable. It's actually what I would equate to being my full-time job.
Okay.
So we're actually both, we actually both relocated from Tampa, Florida. And, you know, we met in nursing school, actually. So we met in nursing school. We both had a really deep interest in entrepreneurship. So we, you know, ended up going to nurse practitioner school like 6 months apart. And so we decided to do business together. And we just, while we were working for someone else, we just kind of like try to tap into what possibilities or what options we would have. Because it is challenging as a nurse practitioner, I would have to say, to be a business owner, because there are so many stipulations for it. There's so many like hoops and bounds you have to go through. In a lot of states, nurse practitioners are not independent, so you have to collaborate with another physician.
So talk to us a little bit about that move. So you were basically a Florida girl, you know, through and out, and you moved to Houston. You didn't really know anybody. Were you scared to do that? Yes,
I was actually terrified. But I'd been coming to Houston like for the past 4 years. So when I first came here, like I knew that it was a city that I wanted to move to. And I remember after nurse practitioner school, after I graduated, I actually got my license to move here, and I chickened out. I never moved, and that was like 3 years ago. So I just got to a point where here I was at a job. I was making high six figures, and I was unhappy. I had scrub angels, and, you know, I had what I guess a lot of people would say, like, you know, as far as my career, I had it all, and I was unhappy. And I knew that being unhappy had a lot to do with my location, because I was in Florida my whole life, and I just felt stuck at the time. I felt stuck, and I needed to change. And, you know, I tried changing little things here and there, like at home where I was, and nothing was like helping. And I knew that it had a lot to do with the fact that I was feeling stagnant for a long time. Mm-hmm. And I like desperately needed a change. And that was the change for me, relocating.
I think I'm trying to remember the episode where somebody asked one of our guests that, I asked one of the guests that, it's like the idea of sometimes you don't get to the next point in your life until you physically move, right? Like you actually have to physically relocate yourself. What do you think was that biggest lesson that you learned after the move about yourself, your own capabilities, what your vision for your dream driving journey was going to look like from then on?
I think the biggest lesson or the biggest thing that happened for me once I moved, because my friend actually, she moved a few weeks later as well, was once we actually got here, because we had been talking about doing business, having our own business as nurse practitioners for so many years. And as soon as we moved here, because we both literally got up and moved, and we didn't, look for another job, because for me, I was like, okay, you've got to figure this out. You've been talking about this for so long. And we were working on the contracts before we moved, just kind of for preparation and setting things up. And I would have to say literally in a few months of us moving, we became self-employed, like fully. So I think for me, that was a lesson. Like, yes, sometimes you literally have to physically up and move to see that change that you want.
So what's the plan now that you're in Houston? Like where are you trying to build Scrub Angels in your own group to be? Like, what are you guys trying to do now?
So my plans actually is to move into a lot of education for nurses. I actually want to do a lot of live events, but I'm going to kick that off with my first brunch of nurses, and it's called Success in Nursing, and it's where I'll have a panel of nurses who are in all different specialties, and they're successful in their own right, and they're just really going to give tips and advice for other nurses on how to do the same. Nursing is such a stressful job. I really want to do like curated trips and things like that for nurses as a way for us to be able to get away, like rejuvenate. So I really want to get into retreats and things like that, and really just keep building the community. I do want to offer more content for nurses, because I do get a lot of questions about being a nurse practitioner or just like nursing in general.
So you say that, nursing is a very stressful job, and a lot of us who are creatives, any type of like lifestyle entrepreneur, just the very act of trying to build your dream is stressful. What's something that you do or you teach to your community to really work through those stressful times?
I'm a big advocate for self-care, and I really preach that a lot to my community as well. It's about really taking time for yourself. Like, I've been there where, you're hustling and you're just chasing that dream or that, dollar amount that you want to make. And for me, I've just gotten to a point in my life, it's like, if I can't enjoy it, there's no point. Like, if I can't take breaks here and there and I can't do things that make me happy, there's no point. So I'm really big on, whether it's getting a massage or, whether it's going on a quick trip, a quick week. I'm big for like quick weekend trips, like getaways. So anything that can just kind of like allow you to disconnect. Because I feel like, especially our generation, we don't allow ourselves to disconnect, including myself, and disconnecting doesn't mean like answering emails while you're away. Like, I mean, fully disconnecting off of social media. So I feel like that's the biggest thing, just really taking care of yourself, because at the end of the day, no one is going to do it.
That is so true. Like, no one's going to, like, how they say no one can love you more than you can love yourself. It's like,
yes.
You gotta love, like, how they say, no, you gotta love yourself first, sis. Like, you really do.
Yeah.
Like,
no, you really do. Right.
Was there
What's
a point?
That song, or how the hell are you gonna learn to love somebody else?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to think of the song.
I can't remember, but I know it's like a line, like a famous line in a song. I don't remember what song it is.
So thinking about like your personal journey, because I feel like a lot of times we don't often think just about like personal lessons we've learned about ourselves. Like, what's just one thing thinking about all you've gone through, from, being an NFL cheerleader to being in nursing school to now moving across the country? Like, what's that one thing you're like, damn, I did that and I'm really proud of it?
I would definitely have to say like moving. And I would have to say that because it's really hard to, like, Florida is all I know, like literally. So for me, picking up at 28, I'm used to everything there. Like, I'm used to having, a secure job. Like, I'm used to having my parents close by. I'm used to having friends, family, and to just pick up and leave and move to a city that's like states away. You only know like 2-3 people here. It was like scary. And it's still like really scary sometimes, because I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I'm still trying to figure my way around here. And I get homesick a lot. So I'm very proud of myself that I actually did it, because I put it off for so long.
Do you ever regret it?
No, I don't have any regrets. Although I really miss home, I don't have any regrets, because I think it was that push that I needed. Because I was so comfortable and was feeling stagnant for so long. It's like, to me, it was like God's way of saying, okay, like, if you're serious about what you want in life, this is the change that, you're going to have to make. You're going to have to make some kind of change. So I feel like that's what I needed. That
is so true. If you're serious about something, you're going to have to make that change. And sometimes I feel like people who, like, how like there's something, like even with this podcast for me, I'll do a real life example. I was blogging before. I was doing a lot of things before, but I was never really as committed to it. And that's how I kind of knew that maybe blogging wasn't for me. Maybe writing for other magazines wasn't for me. But until like there was a dedication that I wanted to have for the podcast. And I think that's something that we all have to kind of tap into or try to figure out for ourselves. What's that thing that you want to be dedicated to? Because there's a lot of things that we could be dedicated to and that we could push ourselves to do, but we're not necessarily like fueled within, And a lot of us don't want to, like, I don't want to, like, what's the word? Like, I think a lot of us know what it is, but we're scared to accept it. Like, that's what my real dream is.
I definitely agree, because I always wanted to, my biggest goal for a long time was to be able to work for myself as a nurse practitioner. And it was such a scary goal because, one, they're not, there are many, but they're not as many as nurse practitioners in business for themselves as there are physicians.
And especially women of color, I'm assuming.
Yes, exactly. So you have those chips kind of stacked up against you. And then, it's, and me and my partner, we're still dealing with that now. Like, we're still in that space where it's uncomfortable, where people still want to try you. because, you are young, you are Black, you're not a physician, you're only nurse practitioner. So you're really not supposed to be the boss. So we're still literally trying to figure out. So to me, that was the business that I always wanted to do. And it was a really big risk, and it was really scary because now you're on your own and you have to, not only worry about seeing the patients and making sure you don't hurt nobody in the process, you also have to make sure where, you know how to run a business. And I didn't come from a family who were filled with entrepreneurs or anyone that I can call and just say, hey, how do I do this? So we literally are still, to this day, still figuring out one day at a time.
What's the business challenge that you're trying to work through now?
Our biggest challenge really is hiring other people. And it's so interesting because I didn't think that it would be that hard, but it's really challenging once you're working in your business to now step outside of it and have to hire other people.
And it's scary because it's like giving someone your baby. Like, are you babysitter certified? Like,
Exactly. And I had the same issue with Scrub Angels. I realized, especially for 2018, in order for me to be able to progress and help even more nurses, like I have to get help. And that itself is a challenge, like just letting go. But it's crucial if you want to grow. There's no way you can work in your business all day and expect to grow it.
That's the same way that I feel about Dreams and Drive, because for 2018, my goal is to do more, right? And do more in the sense where I want to grow the reach. But I'm like, I've been doing everything myself. And part of me is like, you need to really, you've created these systems and these processes, not for you to do, and it's like,
exactly
when you see other people, and I read a lot of biographies, I'm sure you probably study other people in your field or other people who've made it. That's a critical point in everyone's journey, is when they start to outsource and they start to do what they do best and let other people do what they do best. But
exactly.
But a big thing with that is like financing. How, like, I'm not necessarily sure about like how your industry works, but was that something that you've had to navigate? And if so, how were you able to do that?
Yeah. So for the industry I'm in, for medical, anything like that, yes. To start off, like if you want to have your actual clinic, because right now we don't own our own clinic, we rent space from someone else. But if you're starting out, to have your own clinic, own staff, yeah, you're looking at thousands of dollars, so most providers usually have to get a loan or, something similar of that sort. We were actually able to get contracting. So we really just like literally use the money that we make to try to put it back into the business and grow like slowly, because we don't have a financing plan. We didn't have the opportunity to go out and get such a huge loan. So the money aspect is definitely challenging. And we're really finding that out when it comes to hiring other people, because, since we're based off of contracts, we may not get compensated for our contracts months out, but you still have to pay people on a regular basis. So I'm learning like what it really takes a business to pay somebody, every 2 weeks.
Being on payroll and all that other stuff, insurance, because y'all can't, although you are a nurse practitioner, you still need insurance, right? It's like,
yes. And
the irony there.
Exactly. And it really sucks because the insurance is so expensive for, for being self-employed. Like it's really outrageous for small business owners. So that's just a whole nother thing itself.
A lot of times our dream drivers, they'll write to me and I'll say, what's your biggest challenge? And I always think they're going to say something that's like, oh, I don't know how to do social media, or I don't know how to do this. But a lot of people, their biggest challenge is often themselves. Like, what would you say to that person who's struggling with that?
Yeah. And, that's definitely something I struggled with in the beginning. And sometimes I still say, like, sometimes I'm my biggest like my worst enemy. And, I think it's really about getting outside of yourself. Like you literally have to say, okay, you're comfortable here, but in order for you to get there, you have to leave what you're comfortable with behind. You literally have to just wake up one day and say, like, I'm fed up. I'm over it. I'm ready for change, because that's what happened to me when it was time for me to move. Like, I remember waking up. I'm like, okay, I have got to get a moving company. Like, I'm over it. Like, So I really think until you get to the point to where you're like over it and you're over of getting the same results, of getting the same situation, being in the same situation, you're not going to make that change. So you literally have to like separate your feelings, how you're feeling right now, and just do it.
Yep. And there are blessings that come once you're able to do that. But it's a process, right? It's a process. But if you're committed to getting there, you will. But you really have to ask yourself, like, how much do you want it? Like, I think I had an episode where I was talking about, like, feel the fear and do it anyway. And I think a lot of people don't realize that they don't want what they say they want as much as they say they do. Because
I agree.
When you get there, you're just, as you said, like, you're just going to get fed up and you're going to say, I need this more than I'm scared of it.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. I definitely agree. Mm-hmm.
So, as we're winding down, like, I know this journey isn't always filled with marshmallows and fairies, right?
No,
like, what's that thing that keeps you going, Missy? When you just feel like, all right, I'm about to go back to Florida and maybe, try out for the NFL cheerleaders. Like, what's that thing?
If they'll have me back after suing them. Easily on any given day when I'm like feeling crappy or, like I just need a kick in the butt to really get things going. Like what drives me is my parents. Like, and I'm kind of like getting emotional about this, but, like I said, I moved here when I was 5 years old and I remember saying to myself, like, your parents moved from another country. They didn't even know the language. Like they're still trying to know the language. They didn't know language. They had nothing. And my father literally almost died trying to get us to United States of America for a better life. So I'm like, you can pick up and leave and go to another state. So really what drives me is me being able to one day help my parents and really do for them what they were able to do for me, because I consider myself to be lucky, to be able to have an opportunity to, like read books. My parents didn't have that opportunity. My parents grew up, like my mother didn't know how to read until she was, like older. So like, really, that's what drives me. Like when I kind of get in, when I'm like, okay, you have to get it together. Like there's someone that's literally in a worse situation that has worse going on and they're still, still going. So you have to do the same.
Thank you so much. And like, what's the best business advice that you've ever received?
The best business advice I've ever received was to just do it. I remember speaking to one of the, hospital, like he's on the board of a hospital and he owns a lot of businesses here. And we were talking, I met him at an event and, I'm telling him all these things I want to do. And then so he, at the end of, listening to me ramble, he was just like, okay, do it. And I was like, what do you mean? Just do it. He was like, literally just do it. Like, just wake up and do it. If this is what you want to do, just do it. He was like, as long as you take that first step, God will do everything he can to help you get there. But you have to make that first step and make that first commitment to just do whatever it is that you say you want to do.
An object in motion stays in motion, right? But you got to put it in motion, Dream Drivers. You have to put it in motion. Thank you so much, Missy. Let's go to our lightning round, okay?
All right, perfect.
All right, so this part of the interview, as you know, I'm going to give you a prompt, and I want you to tell me the first word that comes to mind. And remember, we're sticking with our dreams and drive metaphor, okay? So don't give me anything too crazy.
Okay.
I've had so many, I've had like over like 130 episodes by now.
Oh my God,
that
that's
I've
amazing.
done. And it's crazy how I don't think I've gotten I probably haven't gotten more than like 2 or 3 repeat answers. This is like my favorite part. So, okay, let's see where your head is at. Let's see where your head is at.
Okay.
All right. The first word is park.
Resilient.
Reverse.
Pivot.
Neutral.
Neutral. I would have to say movement.
And then drive.
Dream.
Ooh, yes, girl. Yes. Mm-hmm. And if you want to be a dream driver, you have to have your keys to success. So tell me 3 things that you think every dream driver needs in their toolkit before they hit the road.
For sure. 3 things I would definitely have to say, believe in yourself. You definitely have to, because if you don't, no one else will. Second thing I would have to say is act. learn to ask for what you want, not what you think someone is going to give you, but literally ask for what you want. Mm-hmm. The third thing I would have to say is to be resilient. Entrepreneurship is hard. This is one of the hardest things I've ever done. So you literally have to be able to roll with the punches and learn how to just bounce back because it's hard.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much, Missy. I have one last question, just because I definitely want to make sure that we're getting everything we can out of you. What's one business resource that has been like so tremendous with you building Scrub Angels and even with your own nurse practitioner group?
Okay. For me, I would have to say YouTube. Like, it's so much free content, and literally anything that you want to learn is on YouTube. So if you have a question, I think that's like the number 2 biggest search engine now. So I'm a visual person. So anytime like I want to like see someone do something, I'll hop on YouTube and find a tutorial for it, or, just kind of hear someone else's experience. So,
and tell our dream drivers where they can find you online if they want to learn more about what you're doing, or, Scrub Angels.
You can definitely find me. My personal Instagram page is Missy the NP. And then you can definitely find us on Scrub Angels on Instagram. And my website is www.joinscrubangels.com.
Okay. And how big is your community now for Scrub Angels?
We have about a little over 2,000 members.
Oh, that's so cool. Mm-hmm. And was it just something that just like grew organically?
It actually did. Mm-hmm. And I would have to say social media has been like the biggest factor for us, or for me.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking at the Scrub Life t-shirt right now on your website. This is so cute. This is, I want one. I'm not even a nurse.
No problem. I'll send you one.
Like Scrub Life.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you so much, Missy. This has been a pleasure talking to you. And I hope everyone listening in has learned so much from Missy as I have. I think the biggest takeaway for me is like, you can't be scared to take that leap, right? Because you never know what's on the other side, and just so much blessings are going to come your way, Missy.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Perfect. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. So that's a wrap for episode 141 with Missy. I hope you enjoyed hearing her dream driving journey as well as her keys to success. And if you loved that episode, if you loved it, if you felt inspired, if you learned something, please, please, please make sure to share on social. We are Dreams and Drive across the board. Screenshot it, upload it to your Instagram stories, make a tweet out of it, make a Facebook post, whatever. Even text it to a friend. Just pass it on to just one person that you think will be encouraged by Missy's words. If you have not grabbed your Dreams and Drive gear, have not bought anything and want to, please go to dreamsanddrive.com/shop to get a Dreams and Drive hoodie, crew neck sweatshirt, or t-shirt. And remember, you can use the code DRIVER for 10% off. So yes, please go do that right now. I also want to make sure that we have as many of you listeners in our Facebook group. So if you want to come on over and join the Dreams and Drive Mastermind, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/Facebook. That's dreamsanddrive.com/Facebook. Or you can just search Dream Driver Mastermind the next time you are logged on. All right, make sure you subscribe wherever you're listening. Please, please, please subscribe, and make sure to leave a review on Apple Podcasts. We now have 101 reviews. Thanks to you all. Let's make it 110 by the end of the week. Please, please, please leave a review and send me a screenshot on Instagram if you do, and I'll do something special. All right, keep dreaming, keep driving, and we'll chat again in episode 142. Bye, guys.